Welcome to Quarantine Quick Meals Easter Dessert Edition. I'm Keri. I'm one of the librarian lunch ladies. And I am at home in my own kitchen without my buddy Sarah because we are isolating because of coronavirus, COVID-19. But that doesn't mean that we can't have a fun dessert to share with our isolated family for Easter. And so today I'm going to make a Swiss roll. Some people would call it a Yule log at Christmas time, but I'm going to repurpose it for Easter, and I'm going to call it an Easter Swiss roll. So the first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees, and then we are going to take a jelly roll pan, 12 by 17, and as you can see, mine's already kind of greasy. It is greasy. I buttered it. So you're going to want to butter that pan. And then we're going to take some parchment paper and we're going to line the pan with the parchment paper. And the butter going down on the pan before the parchment paper will prevent the parchment paper from sticking. And then we are also going to butter the parchment paper because we really do not want this cake to stick because we're going to roll it, hence the name, Swiss roll. So I'm going to take some butter here. And now if you have cooking spray, obviously that works really well as well. If you use Crisco or shortening, that could work too. You just want to make sure that it's going to be greasy enough that we can get this out of our pan. Okay, so my pan is all set. I'm going to set it aside. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to separate our eggs. So I do it the old-fashioned way. We have to separate 4 eggs, but you can use an egg separator as well. That's one of these little gadgets. If you have one of those hanging out in your house, that's what it's for, to separate your eggs. I do it the old-fashioned way, the way my mom taught me. So I take my egg and I crack it. I gently open it. And then there goes the white. And then I put the yolk in the other one. And I go back and forth until it separates. Okay, and then I'm going to take the yolk. Separate, whoop, little white left, pour it in there. So I have 4 egg yolks separated and 4 egg whites separated. For the first part of our Swiss cake roll, we are going to take these egg whites and 1/3 of a cup of regular old white sugar, and we are going to put them in our mixer and beat them. And basically we're making meringue. So we're going to put it in our mixer and use your whisk attachment if you have one. Otherwise it's not going to create stiff peaks. So if you don't have a whisk attachment for your KitchenAid mixer, you can use your hand mixer, and it's just going to be a little more of a pain, but you would want to use your hand mixer then to beat the egg whites and the sugar together. You're going to do that for about 5 minutes until stiff peaks form, and then we'll come back and move on to the next step. Okay, so as you can hear, my stand mixer is working. It is making the meringue, and it is starting to get a little foamy. It's starting to get a little thicker. I've probably got about 3 more minutes until it starts forming peaks. So while that's happening, I'm going to do the next thing, and that is take my egg yolks and put them in a bowl. Along with 1/3 cup of packed brown sugar, teaspoon of vanilla. Keeping an eye on that meringue. So then the egg yolks, brown sugar, and vanilla we're going to beat for 2 minutes until it's pale and creamy. So I'll be back. All right, so here we are looking at the meringue, and you can see that stiff peak right in the middle of the bowl there. Okay, and I'll kind of put down kind of show you again how it peaks and it stays. That's how you want your meringue to be. Okay, so you have to really, really watch it and make sure that you don't overbeat it, because then it'll just turn into smoosh. So while that was finishing up, I beat the egg yolks, the brown sugar, and the vanilla together, and it said to do it till it was pale and creamy, about 2 minutes. And this is much paler than when I started. My egg yolks were quite dark, so that might be why this is a little less pale, but it is very creamy. So those two things, believe it or not, actually got done at the same time. So we will move on to our next step in just a second. Okay, I cleaned up a little bit and I got everything set for the next step, making the cake. So we made the meringue, we combined the egg yolks with the brown sugar and vanilla, and now we're going to sift our dry ingredients. So we have, everybody have their trusty sifter. We've got our sifter, and we are going to sift our flour. We're going to have 1/2 of a cup of just regular old flour. And we have 1/4 of a cup cocoa powder. We have a teaspoon of baking powder. And 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Okay. I'm not putting in that much because I did not have unsalted butter, which is part of the next step. So I'm just going to put in a smidge of salt with this. Well, that ended up not being a smidge. There we go. Okay, so then we're going to sift. And if you don't have a sifter, but you have like a metal sieve or colander, like not colander, but a strainer, you could shake it through there if you don't have a sifter. Because not everybody has one of those. Okay, so now we've sifted our flour, cocoa powder, baking powder, and salt. And the next step is going to be to pour our melted butter over the top of that. I melted, I think I need to microwave that a little bit. It congealed. So I melted it previously and it got hard again. So we're going to do 1/4 of a cup of melted unsalted butter. I had to use salted because that is all I had. It's still not melted. It really got hard again. 1 tablespoon of coffee, strong coffee or espresso. We brew pretty strong coffee here. We kind of use like an espresso type of coffee for our regular coffee. So I'm just going to pour a tablespoon of that in. Now this is not going to make your cake taste like coffee. It just helps bring out the chocolate flavor. There we go. Now it's melted. the melted butter in there. And the last thing that we're going to pour over there is the egg yolk mixture that we made. So now with all of that in here, we're going to beat everything together on medium speed until it's completely combined. So let's do that. All right, to me it looks like it's already completely combined. Okay. I'm just going to wipe down the sides with my spatula. And you have like a pretty thick batter. I'm just going to show you. It's almost like a brownie batter. Mmm. Okay. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take our meringue or our egg whites, our beaten egg whites that we made, and we're going to fold it in to this chocolate mixture. And we have to be very careful. This can also be a tricky thing to do, is folding these in. So we have to fold them in very carefully. You don't want to deflate the egg whites. So I'm being very, very gentle. But if you can see too, I'm going to show you. See how that meringue just kind of, the egg whites just kind of float on my spatula? They kind of stick there. That's the consistency you're looking for. And I find that meringue is not easy to make. I always struggle with it, but other people swear it's super simple. So it's a miracle that it worked for me. And as soon as I get in all my egg whites here, I'm going to show you how I fold it in to give you a little better idea of what you should do when you are making this. My mom used to make Swiss rolls all the time. She called them Lincoln logs, I feel like. I don't know, that might have been something I'm just making up in my head, but for some reason I feel like she did. But like I said, there's like a traditional Yule log is the same thing as a Swiss roll. And chocolate filled with vanilla or cream cheese frosting, which is what I will be doing with a little twist, is generally your most typical Swiss roll that you see, kind of like the Little Debbie Swiss rolls or I forgot what they're called with the Hostess, but you can make them with vanilla cake, you can make them with a flavored cake. It doesn't have to be chocolate and vanilla. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to kind of show you how I'm folding in very carefully the egg whites, so they don't deflate, because we want it to be a nice, fluffy batter. It's hard to do holding it at the side, but giving it my best. So I'm just kind of going around the outside of my bowl and gently folding it. You don't want to stir it. You want to like fold it over. Fold it over. Okay. It's always good to keep cleaning the edges of your bowl to make sure you get everything mixed in. I've got it all mixed in. So we've got it. So if you can tell, it's really light. It's really fluffy. Okay. Kind of much lighter than a normal cake batter. This is going to be a very spongy cake. So we're going to pour it into our prepared pan, and it is going to be a very thin layer. So don't be worried if you think it's too thin. That's how it's supposed to be. Okay. It smells good already. Can't wait to eat it. Every last bit. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to take our pan and we're going to shimmy it around. So see how I'm moving it around? I suppose you could also take your spatula. Moves pretty well. Looks pretty good. So I spread it out on my pan, and I'm going to put it in the oven at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. Just, oh my goodness, I have chocolate on my chin. For 10 minutes, and then we'll take it out and roll it. It's been 10 minutes. It literally cooked in 10 minutes. It was perfect. I took it out, and while it was baking, I pulled off a long strip of parchment paper, and I've dusted it with some cocoa powder. And this immediately when it comes out of the oven, you need to invert it onto this. So I got to do that right now. So it looks like it's going to come out of my pan pretty easily, although this might be the really hard part. Hopefully I don't goof it up. Okay, invert. I got a lot of cocoa powder on myself. Whew! And then you take this off right away. And gentle, gentle, gentle. Oh yeah! Came off perfectly. Let me get this out of the way so you can see. Okay, so hopefully you can see that it turned out came off really nicely. So next is the tricky part. We have to roll it, and we got to roll it while it's warm. So we're going to take it and roll it gently in the parchment. This is like the scary part. So you got to do all of this right away when it comes out. You got to be quick about it. Otherwise it'll cool and it'll start crumbling on you. Okay. All right. You can see the side there. I've got it all rolled. Now you're going to let it cool for 2 to 3 hours before you make the filling and put that in there. So we've got some time to kill. I'll see you back here in about 3 hours. I'm back, and you're probably wondering why I'm wearing different clothes and my hair is different. It's because I made the cake last night and I stuck it in the fridge overnight, and then I took it out earlier today to let it warm up to room temperature. I didn't have enough time to make all of the the guts. I didn't have time to make the guts and the frosting and the cake all in one day. So I spread it out over 2 days. That's another thing that's really nice about this cake is that you can do it in sections if you are cramped on time. And then the other great thing is that you can freeze it for up to 2 to 3 months. You can put the ganache, the glaze on top, and freeze it. Bam. And then pull it out and let it warm up to room temperature and serve. So it's a pretty great cake in that it is versatile, and although it's not quick, it is easy to make in sections. So I'm going to be making the filling, and like I said, I was going to do a twist on the traditional like cream cheese or whipped cream filling. So I am making a strawberry cream cheese filling. So in the recipe that I'm posting on here that I followed for mostly everything, I didn't follow the filling quite the same. What I did was I made a full cup of heavy whipping cream. So I beat it until stiff peaks formed, roughly 3 minutes or so, beat it on high speed with my hand mixer. Then I folded in the strawberry puree mixture that I made before. So I had a little bit of frozen strawberries left in my freezer that I wanted to use up. And I found some strawberries on sale, so I'm going to make a nice garnish on top when I'm done with the fresh strawberries. But I want to use up those frozen strawberries. So what I did is I thawed them out, and I'm going to take my emulsion blender and I'm going to make a puree of those strawberries. So I have about a cup of those frozen strawberries, and I have poured off the excess juice. If you don't have an emulsion blender, I recommend them. They're the most magical thing in the world. It's so much easier to puree things and not have to dump them in a food processor. But if you don't have one and you have a food processor, that would be the way to puree. And so then I have my strawberry puree. It smells kind of like summer. Okay, so now we're going to make the cream cheese filling. So I have 1 package of regular cream cheese. Oh, I guess this is the 3rd less fat. Either way, you choose. Works the same. And it is at room temperature. We're going to put it in our bowl here. Okay, so we're going to get that in our bowl, and then to that, we are going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla and 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. So I've got my granulated sugar here. And my vanilla. Okay, so then I'm going to beat this until it is smooth. Okay, I whipped it until it was smooth. It's not grainy, so you want to make sure that you whip it long enough that it kind of fluffs up a little bit, and it isn't grainy. You want to make sure that that granulated sugar is all mixed in. So now I'm going to add my puree. Whipping cream idea, and I'm going to fold in some of my puree. So I'm just folding that in, and now it's at a point where it's a good consistency to put in my roll. It's more of that whipped cream consistency. Perfect. Okay. So now that I have my filling made, it's time to unroll the cake. So here we go. And you gently unroll it. It's frightening. Everything could go wrong. Almost there. Almost there. So I did it. I did it. It unrolled. No breakage. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. Well, now that we unrolled it well, we're going to put our filling on. And you're going to spread your filling evenly onto your cake. Hi, Vivian. Ah, so lovely having children at home. All right, so you're gonna spread it evenly on your cake. Let me turn this here so you can see it a little better. There we go. Leaving about a 1/2 inch border around each side. So we don't want it to go all the way to the edge. We want it to have a little border so that it has room to squeeze when you roll it back up. Oh my gosh, this would be perfect to make for Valentine's Day. But I think it's gonna look really nice for Easter because pink, I don't know. We're big fans of pink in our house. And purple, green, blue, yellow, orange. But yeah, this is a really beautiful color. It turned out nice. I'm excited. I'm even more excited to eat it with the fresh strawberries that I'm going to put on top. Okay, I think I can spread it a little closer to the edge. I'm not super great at measurements all the time because it's just not my forte. So my 1/2 inch is usually either too short or too wide, but I think I've got it here. Okay, so now it's spread. And now we get to roll it back up. So I've got my filling spread out on my cake with a 1/2 inch on all sides. And now it's time to roll it up. This is the other scary part. The rolling and unrolling and rolling gives me anxiety. But we're going to do it gently. And pray. Pray that it won't break. Or that I overfilled it, which could be a distinct possibility. Or that it sticks to the parchment. Or all of the above. If I overfilled it, we'll just catch the excess on the parchment. Try and squeeze it. Oh boy. Yeah, I think I did. I think I overfilled. Ah, there it goes. Okay, so as you can see, it's a little full, little crazy. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to cut the parchment paper. It didn't stick. I got it to roll all the way. So I rolled it. You can see there's some gushy stuff over here because I did overfill it. So in making my own filling, I maybe made too much. And so what I'm going to do here is, since it is rolled and it didn't break, I'm going to take it, put it on my wire rack, but still keep it on the parchment paper. Okay, so now that I've gotten my cake onto my cookie sheet with the parchment underneath it, I'm going to put it in the freezer to harden it up so that I can then make the ganache. And then I'm going to put it back in the freezer anyways because I'm not going to serve it till Easter, which is a few days away. And then I'll just take it out a couple hours ahead of time, put my fresh strawberries on top, and bam. So we are ready to make our ganache. And it's very simple. We only need 2 ingredients, 3 if you want to add the corn syrup. I'm not using the corn syrup. They add it like a tablespoon just for the glossy shine that it'll give, but I don't have any, so I'm not adding it. So we need a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream, and we are going to warm it on the stove. So I have that going. You want to gently simmer it. You don't want it to get too hot. You definitely don't want it to boil because then it'll overflow. It happens to me all the time. So that's what I'm waiting for right now. I'm waiting for it to simmer. And once it does, we're going to pour it over our chocolate. And you can buy a bar of semi-sweet chocolate, but I had some semi-sweet chocolate chips left over, 4 ounces, perfect amount. And that's what I'm using today. So I have them in a bowl. So you would put the corn syrup in with the bowl if you were going to use it, which I'm not. But you would put it in with this bowl. So I'm just waiting for my heavy cream to simmer, and once it does, we're going to pour it over our chocolate chips. And then we're going to wait another 2 to 3 minutes for it to melt the chips. We're going to stir it, and then we're going to pour it over our Swiss roll. So I'll be back when the milk has simmered. Okay, so we've got some gently simmering heavy cream here. So I am going to take it off of my burner. And just so you guys know, I had my burner on at about 4. So about medium low. So we're going to take it and we're going to pour it over the chips. Okay. So now we're going to let that sit for 2 to 3 minutes. And after that 2 to 3 minutes, we're going to slowly stir it. So we'll be back in 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so I've let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to gently stir to create my ganache. It's thickening up. Okay, I'm just going to kind of show you so it's nice and glossy and thick. Okay, so now we are going to pour it on to our Swiss roll. And you can spread it with your spatula or your spoon so that it covers the top of your roll. So there shouldn't be able to see the top of it. It should all be covered in chocolate. You will have some time to spread it before it starts to harden, but you do want to work somewhat quickly on it. So that you can get everything covered nicely. Smooth it out. All right. And that's it. Now I'm going to put it back in the freezer because I'm not going to use it for a couple of days. Or eat it, not use it, eat it for a couple of days. But it will store in the freezer up to 2 to 3 months. So you may want to make sure that it's completely cooled and dried, and then you could wrap it in tin foil or put it in a container if you have one big enough, and stick it in the freezer. So I will post a picture of how it turned out for Easter. I'm going to put some pretty little strawberry slices along the top when I serve it because it is the strawberry cream cheese filling. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, I'm Keri. I'm one of the Lunch Lady librarians. And I've enjoyed doing this today. I hope you give it a shot. It is a little tough, but if you have patience and you take your time and you don't try and do everything all at once, it may work out for you. Thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you're all safe and healthy.